Hello, everyone, and welcome to our week one session of Photoshop. I am so thrilled to have you all today. You guys should be thrilled to have this class because it's going to be really, really fun. This is for most of you, in fact, this is your first design class, which means that for many of you, this is your first time using a Mac computer, maybe, and maybe this is your first time using Photoshop as well. Give me a little smiley face if this is your first ever time using Photoshop. Yeah, usually I would say about 99% of the students in this class have never used Photoshop before and have never used a Mac computer before. And so maybe understandably, you're like a little bit worried, perhaps. Maybe you're thinking, oh gosh, you know, you maybe opened up the program for the first time and you see all these different tools and all these different toolbars and panels, and you might be freaking out a little bit and being like, I don't know if I'm going to do well in this class because there's so much to learn. I just want you guys all to like relax, take a breath, and know that I will guide you step by step through this program. And I've been teaching this class for over 10 years. And like I've said, most of my students have never ever used Photoshop before. Most of them have never used a Mac computer before. And I have a very, very high success rate with a vast majority of my students not only passing this class, but getting an A in this class. So something I say over and over again is it's really hard to fail this class, but you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And, you know, in the history, there's been a few students who have not been successful, but the vast majority of my students end up being successful. And really, you have to try really hard to do poorly in this course. This is like the first introduction for our graphic design students to the design process. So we make this really easy for you. We give you 4 weeks of very easy, simple projects. And the purpose of these projects is to kind of get your feet wet a little bit, introduce you to, you know, some of the tools of Photoshop, not all of them, because remember, this is only 4 weeks. So you're not going to learn every single tool and every single thing about this program in 4 weeks. Just like if you're learning how to play the piano, you're not going to learn how to play every single song that ever existed in 4 weeks of learning the piano, right? You're going to know what some of the notes are. You are going to learn kind of the basics. And then after this course is over with, you know, you're definitely encouraged to continue on in training yourself and, you know, making use of all the resources that are available to you, and, you know, just taking what you learned in this course and then just continuing forth into your design career. Now, I know many of you are super, super passionate about graphic design. That's why you have chosen to major in graphic design and spend a lot of money. Let's face it, tuition is very expensive. And you've chosen to, you know, invest a great deal of money into getting a college education in graphic design. So know that I understand this, and I understand the investment you made, and I want to do whatever I can to help you be successful. Like, I will bend over backwards to do whatever you need in order to get an A in this class. And that's my goal for each and every one of you. I want you all to end up with an A in this class. You know, if you're going to get a B or a C, get that B or a C in your management class or your algebra class or your English class or math or whatever. Whatever class isn't graphic design. But everything that's like related to graphic design, you want to get an A in, right? So you can show your potential employers that you're a good graphic designer, that you have the skill and training, and then hopefully, in addition to having really good grades, you're going to have a portfolio full of amazing design work, starting with the work that you create in this class, to show potential employers that, yes, you are a highly skilled graphic designer and you can make some spectacular works of art. So in this class, we are going to be talking about the steps to install Photoshop for the first time. And we're going to be talking about making your first project. And hey, you guys, the week 1 project for this class is so easy. It will take you like 5 minutes. But it's going to be really fun because it's your first ever experience, you know, using the tools in Photoshop. So your week 1 assignment is super easy, super fun. I'm going to teach you how to do it. And then your week 1 assessment is even easier. You guys remember coloring in kindergarten? Well, you probably, when you were in kindergarten, you never thought you would be coloring in college. But your week 1 assessment is exactly that. It's a coloring page. And so you get to do some coloring, and it's going to be really, really fun. And then yeah, I'll talk a little bit about getting a job in this industry, and then we will move on. So I'm sure that you guys are all really excited to get started. So I'm going to jump into showing you guys how to install the program and how to get started with your first assignment. And then, and our class session is always going to be 2 hours long every week. So a good tip, you guys, and I'll talk a little bit about tips for your success in this class in a moment. But a good tip, if you guys don't have a piece of paper and a pencil handy right now, is to have a piece of paper and a pencil right by your computer. If you don't have one yet, go get one, go walk across the room, go get a piece of paper, go get a pencil. Because a lot of the things that I'm going to teach you are step by step. And it's kind of like a recipe. It's like click here, then click here, then click here, then use this shortcut key. And if you're just sitting back and watching this like a TV show, you're not going to remember anything. So, and also, if you're trying to do everything while watching the class session, it's not going to be successful for you. Don't even try. So actually physically handwrite notes, because studies show that when you physically handwrite the notes, the information goes into your brain and stays there longer than if you're just like watching this like a TV show, or taking notes on your computer. So actually physically handwrite notes with a paper or pencil. And the handy thing about writing notes with a paper or pencil then is that when you are on your computer then doing the project, you can just refer down to your notes on the paper. And if you come to my multi-session for one-on-one help, I'm going to ask you, if you're like, okay, I've made my document, now I have to make a shape. I'm going to ask you, what do your notes say? Okay. So if you say I didn't take notes, then I'm going to tell you to watch the class session again, take notes, and then come back to my multi-session for one-on-one help. So taking notes is a really, really important part of your learning process. And I am going to be saying over and over again what parts you want to take notes on. So first we got to get that Photoshop installed, right? And I'm sure you guys are super excited to get that installed. So what you're going to do is go to the dashboard. And you have this class here called the IU Graphic Arts Community. The IU Graphic Arts Community. And you are going to click on that. And then you are going to, this is very, very important, you have to take the pre-learning assessment first. So you got to click on the pre-learning assessment, and you have to take the pre-learning assessment first. So write this down in your notes, guys. Step 1 to install Photoshop is to go to the IU Graphic Arts community. And then step 2 to install Photoshop is to click on the pre-learning assessment. And what's the pre-learning assessment? It is about 60 questions. And it's not graded, so you're not going to lose points towards class for it if you do poorly on it. The purpose of the pre-learning assessment is for us as a school to assess how much you know coming into the program. And then when you graduate, you're going to take another assessment, and we'll compare the 2 grades, and we as a school will be able to assess how much you learned while going through our program, okay? So you need to first, in order to get Adobe Photoshop, you need to take this pre-learning assessment. Again, don't get stressed out about it. Don't be like, oh no, my entire college career is ruined because I got a low grade on the pre-learning assessment. It's no big deal. Chances are you're not going to do good on it. That's okay. Just take it. Just do it. Just get it done. And then when you have it done, you are going to click on this link for Adobe. And there's some helpful things on this page, you guys. So many of you, like I said before, are new to a Mac. You've never used a Mac computer before, right? There are videos here that show you how to use your Mac computer, so you might want to watch them and take some notes. Now, I personally, when I used a Mac computer for the first time ever, because, you know, all through high school, college, grad school, I used a PC. And then my first job out of grad school was on a Mac. And Macs are great because I know you might be freaked out at first because you've never used one before, but Macs are great because they're highly intuitive. And like, I didn't have anyone teach me. I just kind of figured it out on my own. And occasionally, like, I couldn't figure out how to do something. So I just asked someone, hey, how do you do this on a Mac? And someone showed me. So you can probably learn your Mac computer on your own without having someone teach you. But you know, many of you like to have like a step-by-step guide to how to do a new thing rather than figure it out on your own. These videos, watch these videos. They teach you step-by-step how to operate your Mac computer. And then what you're gonna do is click on this link to install Adobe for the first time. You'll click on it, and it's gonna be super easy, guys. You just follow the instructions here. Just follow the instructions. Now, it's really, really important when you get your redemption code, the number one thing that goes wrong with students installing their Adobe is that they type the redemption code instead of copy and pasting the redemption code. So make a big note on your notes right now and write down on your notes, copy and paste redemption code. Circle that. Because if you type your redemption code, it's not going to work, I guarantee you. And it's going to say you have like a 7-day trial of Photoshop. And that's no good. Now, the person that you are going to contact if you have trouble, and also when you take your pre-learning assessment, is Sean Childress Gray. And his contact information is here in the live FPA office hours. Scroll down. Okay, so here is Sean's contact information. And so his email address, if you are stuck with anything and you're not able to get your Photoshop installed, it's right there. Contact him. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this in the chat so you guys can all copy and paste it as well. Here's the thing, guys. Pay attention. This is really important. And write this down in your notes. Your Photoshop, your Adobe must be installed by Wednesday. That's a hard deadline. Absolutely no exceptions. You must get your Adobe installed by Wednesday. So if you are having trouble, you need to contact Sean immediately. Email him. And the thing is, he has a lot of students to get through. So he might take 24 hours to get back to you. It might even take a little bit longer to get back to you. If you do not get a response from Sean in 24 hours, what are you going to do? You're going to email him again, okay? So email Sean every 24 hours until you get the assistance that you need to install your Adobe. Okay, so Sean is the person that is going to help you with your Adobe. Write that down in your notes. And you need to get Adobe installed by Wednesday. And if you do not get Adobe installed by Wednesday, you are likely going to fail the class, okay? So, and remember, every time you get an F in a class, it's $1,500. You get billed $1,500. So you must get Adobe installed by Wednesday. It's super, super important, guys. Do not sleep on this. It's really, really important. Okay, now we are ready to jump into our class. And does anyone have any questions about the Adobe installation before I move on? Any questions at all?
I had a question.
Sure, what's up?
Is there a possibility, like any way whatsoever, that I'm actually able to like download this onto my Windows PC and use it, or is it only on the Mac?
I believe the Photoshop that's provided by the school is only available on a Mac. But you can email Sean and ask if there's a way that it can be installed on a PC. He's the only one who would know that.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Glad to help. Alrighty, so some important things about the classroom. Please periodically check the announcements, which are available here. The announcements are where I post important, vital information. And chances are, if you have a question, chances are that question has been addressed to me before, and I posted the answer here in the announcements. So, but always, never hesitate to email me if you have questions about anything, but do check the announcements first, because, you know, I periodically post things that people have trouble with in the announcements. And then for week 1, you guys will want to first post in our introductory thread where y'all get to know each other. It's a nice way that I can learn a little bit about you, and you guys can learn a little bit about each other, and we can all bond and correspond that way. But then something that is required is that you do the discussion. And the discussion is asking you about raster and vector graphics, and what situations you'd want to use raster graphics and what situations you want to use vector graphics. And this is something I'm going to be demonstrating here in class today. But something that's really, really important to make interesting discussions is, 1, 80% of your discussion has to be your own original opinion and analysis, where you are discussing your own personal thoughts and feelings about things. And then you are supporting your thoughts and feelings and opinions with cited sources and references. And about 20% of your post should be, you know, quotes or paraphrased information from outside sources. So 80% of your post should be your own original feelings and thoughts and opinions about things. And then 20% should be paraphrased information from outside sources. Do not think you can get away with just copying and pasting stuff from the internet. You will get caught. You will get an F. You will fail the class and be billed $1,500. So don't just copy. Don't plagiarize, you guys. Don't do it. You can see some really great examples of discussion board posts that have been made in the past by clicking here on these samples. And you can also learn about APA format by clicking here on this link as well. So please do, before you make your initial post, look at the example of APA formatted discussion post, look at the examples of A quality work by clicking on these links, and you'll be all good to go. The last really important thing that you need to know about discussion boards is we love when you post imagery in your discussions. And in fact, it's worth 3 points off of the discussion rubric. So the way that you post imagery in the discussion is really easy. First, you click on the reply thread so you can start typing. And then you'll type something like, here is an example of a billboard design. And now what you have to do is find something on the internet to use in your discussion board post. So I'm going to go File, New, and I'm going to go Google, and then I'm going to go to Billboard Design, and then I'm going to go up to Images, and then I will click on an image that I particularly like, and then I can hold down the Control button and click on the image. Please, you guys, try not to run your video because it does slow down the audio a whole lot, and it makes the video go slow as well. So what you do is you hold down the Control button, or you right-click on the image, and then you go to Copy Image Address. Copy Image Address. And then you go over here to your discussion. You click on the little embed image icon, which looks like a square with like a mountain inside of it. And then you click on the little URL tab and you hit Command V. Command V is paste, and you use Command V in all programs, whether it's Microsoft Word or Photoshop or the internet or whatever internet browser you use. And then you click Update. And then you can go into depth and now analyzing what you see in that design, right? So you can see, say, this billboard clearly uses both raster and vector imagery. And you can go on to discuss it and then hit post reply. So it's really that easy. Putting imagery in your discussion is worth 3 points, and it certainly makes the discussions a whole lot more interesting to look at than just paragraphs and paragraphs of text. That's boring, boring, boring. Okay. Let's move on to our assignment. Now, with all of your assignments in your classes, please be sure to read the directions and also read the rubric for how you're going to be graded. The main reason why students end up getting kind of a low grade on some of their assignments is not because they're a bad designer or they're dumb or they're not good at Photoshop. It's simply that they turned something in that wasn't what the assignment was specifying. So notice here, the assignment is very specific about what size document it's being asked for, and I am going to be demonstrating very shortly how to make a document that is this size. And for any of you who have Photoshop installed already, open up Photoshop, and I'm going to be, because my Photoshop, when it first opens, looks different from the way your Photoshop will look when it first opens. So I'd love to have one of you guys share your screen when I'm ready to do my demonstration, just so we can show our fellow classmates the difference between Photoshop after you've been using it for a while and Photoshop when you're first opening it for the first time. So we're also making a document that is 72 resolution, and we're going to be talking about that as well. And there are two file types that need to be submitted for grading. And this is the main area where students end up losing some points. You have to submit both a JPEG and a PSD. So a Photoshop document, a PSD, is a file that only opens with Photoshop. So a PSD is a document that designers use, whereas a JPEG, you guys know what JPEGs are. If you have ever used the internet before, you know JPEGs are the images that you post to Twitter and Facebook. JPEG is the universal file format that everyone with a computer can view a JPEG. But a PSD file is a file format that only someone with Photoshop can view. Okay, that might be a good thing to write down. JPEG equals everyone can view it. PSD equals only Photoshop users can view it. And the reason we always save our PSDs is because they have all the layers, so we can make changes to our documents. Whereas JPEGs, you can't make a change to a JPEG. A JPEG is a JPEG, and it's done. Once it's a JPEG, you can't fix it. You can't change it. It's done. Alrighty, so take a look at the rubric for how you're going to be graded on this assignment, and make sure that you've met all the requirements. So make sure that you've submitted both a Photoshop document and a JPEG. Make sure that you made it the right size and resolution, and then make sure that you've used 3 of Photoshop shape layer tools. So it's specifically saying the shape layer tools, which I'm going to be demonstrating in just a moment. So not text, not photos, not brush tool, specifically the shape layer tools. And 3 of those in order to earn 85 points. And I've seen students who, and this is sad, they're like, oh, cool, I'll make a wallpaper. I'll make my wallpaper using the brush tool. And they lose out on 85 points because they didn't use the 3 shape tools. So I have to give them 35 out of 120, which is not good. So make sure that for this assignment you use the shape tools. Now I know I'm making it sound like there's a bunch of students who make those mistakes, and it's not true. I would say 99% of students end up getting an A on this first assignment because, like I said, it's really easy. But it always kind of makes me sad, understandably. Those one student out of 200 who that can't get with the program and turns in something that clearly states in the rubric wasn't what was required, and clearly didn't watch my class session where I demonstrated how to do it. And so I always feel a little bit sorry for those students because it's clearly there. All you have to do is just follow the instructions, and then you get an A, and it takes you 5 minutes. So let's make our first assignment. Now, like I said, when you open up your Photoshop, it's going to look different from mine because I have been using my Photoshop 1,000 million times. And for you guys, you are opening up Photoshop for the first time. So there's going to be an open screen that pops up that guides you through how to make your first assignment. So does anyone have Photoshop open right now? Or how about this? Does anyone want to be a STAR student and share their screen right now and show all of us what Photoshop looks like when you first open it? So if anyone wants to be a Gold Star student, go ahead and hit the share screen button right in the middle of your screen there. And then share your desktop and then just open up Photoshop so we can all see it.
If I'm able to have a minute, I can download Photoshop really quick.
Okay, it takes a little longer than a minute to download.
Not when your internet's over 400 meg.
Oh, good. So if you have a fast internet, that's great. I'll check in with you a little bit later And yes, okay, so no one has Photoshop up.
All
That's no
right.
problem. I'll check in with you a little bit later and then you can show it to us. Oh, who has it? Okay, Michael. Hold on a second. Michael, do you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Can you hear me?
Yep, definitely.
I am currently, I was on my phone, but I'm currently doing the login for the assignment right now. So just give me a few minutes to get into the.
Okay, perfect. Oh, it looks like you are. See, hey, look, and Michael already had, oh, Edward, this is Edward.
Yeah, this
Edward already has like the assignment done. This is perfect. And you're super creative. You used different shape layers. So if you guys do something exactly like Edward does, you're perfect. So Edward, do us a favor and actually close out Photoshop and then open it up again as if you're opening it for the first time. And that way we'll be able to kind of see what Photoshop looks like
Okay.
when you first open it.
Hang on.
Ooh, someone has some crazy sounds going on.
Hang on. I got to leave the program on that
Yeah.
one. Okay, I'm back.
Okay, good.
Okay, I just saved it real quick.
Okay, oh, there we go. So when you guys, this is perfect. When you guys open up Photoshop for the first time, it's gonna look something like this, only you won't have as many projects because Edward's been using it for projects and stuff. But what you're gonna do is hit the Create New button. So go ahead, Edward, and hit the Create New button. And then for your width, you will choose 1024 pixels, which it already has. For your height, you'll type in 768. And for your resolution, you'll hit 72. And do make sure that it's on pixels and not inches, because if you make something that's 1024 inches, it's going to be huge and your computer will crash because it runs out of RAM. So make sure that it's 1024 pixels. And then just hit create. And that is basically what I wanted to show you on Edward's computer. And yeah, just hit the create button. And that's how you make your first project. So I'm gonna now take over and I'll show you guys what to do next on my screen. So you guys, after you use Photoshop for a while, that welcome screen doesn't show up anymore. And so you'll make a document this way instead. You'll go up to File up at the top of the screen, and then you'll click New. And then I'm gonna, again, change it from pixels to, from inches to pixels rather, because if I make this 1024 inches, it's gonna be huge. 1024 by 768. And then resolution 72. So on your notes, you guys, write that down. Step 1 to make your project is to go to File, New, write that down. And then in your settings, you're gonna put in 1024 by 768. And the resolution is gonna be 72. And for pretty much all of our projects, we're gonna be working in RGB color mode. And RGB color mode is the mode that is made for the screen. So RGB equals screen. CMYK is what you would use to design for print. And that's the other one. But we're not going to use CMYK. We're going to use RGB. And then we're going to click OK. Yay! So now we have our first project. So the thing about Photoshop is you want to make every change that you make to a document, you want to make it on a separate layer. So Photoshop is made of these kind of transparent, imaginary sheets of plastic on top of each other, if you can kind of imagine. And these are found over here in the layer panel. And so every change that you make, you put it on a new layer. So I want to change my canvas color. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the layer panel, and I'm going to click on this square that has this little triangle in the corner of it. That's the new create a new layer icon. And so that makes a new layer. Every change goes on a new layer. And you can also use the shortcut key, Shift Command N, to make a new layer. And it's Shift Control N if you're on a PC, Shift Command N if you're on a Mac. Okay, so now I'm ready to put a color on this new layer, and that will change the whole color of my document. And the tool I'm going to use to do this is the Paint Bucket tool over here in my tool panel. And chances are you guys might not see the Paint Bucket tool. You might see, instead of the Paint Bucket tool, you might see the Gradient tool. That's because the Gradient and the Paint Bucket are roommates together. The Gradient and the Paint Bucket live on the same button. So sometimes you open the little button and the Gradient is there and you're like, hi Gradient, I need to see your roommate Paint Bucket. And so you click on Gradient and then Paint Bucket shows up. So understand that some of these tools are roommates together, and you have to click on one tool in order to get to another tool. So with my Paint Bucket, I'm going to fill in this whole document with one solid color. And that color is going to be whatever I have on this foreground color swatch. So right now my foreground color swatch is set to white. So if I click with the Paint Bucket tool, it's just going to make it white again, right? And that's boring. I want to choose a different color. So I'm going to click on the foreground color swatch, and I'm going to click on a color. I'll choose like a dark blue color. Right? And that's a good tip for anytime you're designing. If you're choosing a background color, either choose a background color that is way dark, like down here, or way light, that's up here. If you choose a background color that's in here, it's going to be hard to find text that will contrast with it. So background should always be down here or up here. Okay, so I chose a nice dark blue color. And now I'm going to click on my document. Ta-da! Now I have a nice dark blue document. So Paint Bucket tool is roommates with the Gradient tool. It looks like that. And you need to change the foreground color in order to use it. Now it's kind of a dark orange color. Next, we are going to use the shape tools. And you're required for this project to use 3 shape tools in order to earn full credit. So I'm going to go over here to our layer panel, and I'm going to make a new layer, either by clicking on the new layer icon, which is that square with the little triangle in the corner, or by using the shortcut key, Shift Command N, or Shift Control N if I'm on a PC.
Wait a minute. Hey, Professor.
Oh, sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, how'd you get your color?
Oh, to get my color, I clicked on the foreground color swatch, which is right here. It says set foreground color. And then I choose a color. So I'll choose like light green. And then I take my paint bucket tool and I click on my document, and that changes the color.
Okay, because I noticed that you went from a green board, or a white board, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And then for your foreground color, you changed that, but it had like a red tint to it. Did you change the color after?
Yep.
Oh, you changed the artboard color after you did the foreground?
Yep.
Ah, gotcha.
So watch, every time I want to change the color, I just click on the foreground color, and then I choose, and I'll do a dark blue. I'm going to click OK, and then I click with my paint bucket tool on the background there, and it changes it to blue.
And it's got that red tint to it because you got the background color too.
No, right now it's blue. And right now I have two background colors. So if I delete layer 2, then I'm back to the red color that I had. So whatever I fill in the background with will be the color of my document.
I see.
So let's say now I want to change my background to a light blue color. I put a light blue color on my foreground color, and then I click with my paint bucket on the background there, and then it changes, just like that.
Yeah.
Make sense?
It's starting to. It's been a while since I've been in Photoshop.
Okay, I'll do it again if you want. So what I do is I click again my paint bucket tool, and then I go to my foreground color, which is this color right here, this swatch here. I can then change my color to whatever I want. I'll choose a dark purple right now. Then I'll click OK. And then with my paint bucket tool, I'll click on my canvas, and it changes the color. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool, perfect. So now what we're gonna do is make a shape on this. So I'm gonna make a new layer by hitting Shift Command N, or by clicking the new layer icon. And then I'm gonna go over to my tool panel. And these are really the only two things that you need in Photoshop for the next 4 weeks. You need to be able to see the tool panel, which has all of your tools, and the layer panel, which is where you're gonna put everything. If for some reason the layer panel and the tool panel are not showing up, you can go up to Window up at the top of the screen, and you can make sure that you see a nice check mark next to layers, or just click on layers and layers will pop up. Same for tools. You can click on tools and tools will pop up. You can also, if for some reason you've completely messed up your workspace, you can go to Workspace, and you can click on Reset Essentials, and that will open up, again, basically the essential panels, which are layers and tools. These are the only two things that you need. Now I'm going to go to my shape tools. And like the paint bucket tool, the shape tools are roommates together. Like the paint bucket tool was roommates with the gradient tool. The paint bucket tool is roommates, or the paint bucket tool is roommates with the gradient tool. The shape tools are all roommates together. So I am going to choose first my ellipse tool, which makes nice little circles. Now, if I were to draw a dark purple ellipse on a dark purple background, would I be able to see it? No. So a really important thing before you begin drawing shapes is to change your foreground color. And so I'm going to change my foreground color to something completely different. And then I'm ready to draw my shape. Now, up at the top of the screen, you have 3 options. You have shape, path, and pixels. The pixels option creates something called a raster object, which is something that we discussed in our week 1 discussion. And a raster object is made out of little squares of color called pixels. Now, I would strongly recommend that you do not use the pixels option for this project or for really any project. Watch and find out why. Because watch what happens when I draw a pixels-based shape. So I'm going to hold down the Shift button. Holding down the Shift button, and I'm clicking downward at a diagonal angle to draw a little circle. I'm letting go of my clicker, letting go of my Shift button. Now let's say I decided that that circle is too small and I want to make it bigger. So I hit the shortcut key to resize something, which is definitely, write this down, guys, write this down. Command T, Control T if you're on a PC, Command T if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to hold down the Shift button, click and drag at a diagonal angle. See what happens when I resize something that is a raster object? It becomes blurry and pixelated. Now, some people mistakenly put in their discussions that all raster objects are blurry and pixelated, and that's not true. But if you take a raster-based image and you stretch it and make it bigger, it's going to look blurry and pixelated, which is bad. If you send something like this to print, it would look really bad and unprofessional. So let's do it again. So what I do is I hold down the Shift button, click and drag at a diagonal angle. Now I want to resize something. So I hit Command T, write that down. Command T if you're on a, sorry, I put it on my background. Don't do that. I deleted my layer. So hold down the Shift button, click and drag. Command T to resize. Hold down the Shift button. Blurry and pixelated. And then enter when you're done. So this looks unprofessional. This will look really bad when it's printed out. But that's not to say that all raster images are bad. You know, by their definition, all photographs are raster-based. So just because something is raster-based doesn't mean it's bad. But if you take a small resolution version of a raster image and stretch it and make it bigger, it will look bad. So that's why when we're making shapes in Photoshop, instead of using the pixels option, we're going to use the shape option. Shape. The shape option creates a vector shape, which when I hold down the Shift button and I click and drag, already it looks a little bit different than our pixel layer. It has this kind of silvery line around it and it has these little squares. Now don't worry about those squares on your circle. They're not design elements. They're just there to tell you, hey, you're making a vector object. When you print this out or save it as a JPEG, it's going to look like a normal circle. But the cool thing about this vector object is I can resize it as much as I want and it's not going to look blurry and pixelated. So I'm going to hit Command T, then I'm going to hold down the Shift button and click and drag. Hold down the Shift button, click and drag. And see, I can make that as big as I want and it's not going to look blurry and pixelated. Now I'm going to hit Enter or Return when I'm done. Now the other cool thing about making vector shapes rather than raster shapes is this little window pops up, which is pretty much the same as all the info up here. But it lets you add cool, interesting things to it. So this little weird icon is called the stroke, which is the outline that you can put on an object. So right now it's set to 0, so there is no stroke. But watch what happens when I increase the stroke. See, now I have this outline around my shape. Let's say I don't want it to be that orangey, light orange peach color. I want it to be a different color. So I click on this stroke icon here, and I can change it to a different color if I want. I can click on the color picker here and then change it again to whatever I want. I can also change the quality of the outline. So right now it's just a solid, boring line. I can change it to polka dots if I want. And I can also change the quality of the dots, the spacing of them, or the thickness of them by adjusting the settings here. So let's say I want the dots to be really close together. I'll change the gap to 1. Now the dots are really close together. If I want the dots to be really far apart, I can change the gap to 3. And I can also change like how thick and thin the dots are, right? I can change the dashes like so if I wanted to. And I can also change where the polka dots are going to be placed on the circle. So if I want them halfway inside, halfway outside, I can click on this little drop-down menu here, and I can do something like that. And I can also put them on the outside completely like that. Okay, Edward, yeah, what's your question?
Yeah, I noticed when I was doing my assignment, everything I do, I can't put like all my stars on the same layer.
Mm-hmm. If you want to merge them together afterwards, you can select all your layers and then merge them by hitting Command E.
Guys, see, will you show us how to do that later?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you how to merge your layers. But it's a good idea in general to have things on separate layers for as long as possible so that you can, you know, adjust them individually and move them around. Because once they're on a merged layer, you can't really change them. They are what they are.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do next is something that's really fun. We're going to play with the polygon tool. And I always get students, after I do this polygon tool demonstration, they start out not really paying attention, and then when they see what the polygon tool can do, they're like, whoa, do that again. So I need everyone to pay really, really close attention to me right now. I'm using the polygon tool. I'm going to make a new layer. And I am going to go up here to the little gear icon up at the top of the screen. And I'm going to make sure that the star option is checked. So we select the polygon tool, same button as the ellipse tool. They're all roommates together, all the shape tools. You're gonna go up to the top of the screen and click on the little gear icon. Write this down in your notes, little gear icon. And then make sure star is checked. And then you can put any number of sides that you want. So I'm going to put 66 sides on my star. And there is an option here to indent your sides. So I'm going to indent my sides by 99. And watch this. Now I'm clicking and dragging. And now I've made this cool starburst. Now right now it looks kind of silvery and weird because the path is still on it. But when I make a new layer, Shift Command N, that's what it looks like. It has this kind of like Japanese starburst effect. And let's actually change the color a little bit so you can actually see it on top of my circle. So the cool thing about layers in Photoshop is that you can reorder the layers. So right now my star that I made, which is polygon 1, is above my ellipse layer. But if I click and drag and put it under the ellipse, now it's like the ellipse is, you know, a sun with rays behind it. So we can make all sorts of different cool stars by going up to the gear icon. And this time I'll do 60 size, 6 indent size by 60. I will do smooth indents, and instead of 66 sides, I will put 5 sides on my star. And see, now we can make these different types of stars. And so every time I click and drag and make a star, it puts it on its own layer. If I want to put, for some reason, all these stars on one layer, I can hold down the Shift button while I draw my stars. And see, now they're all going on layer 10.
Now that's something that's been, that's something new since the last time I took it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you hold down your Shift button, all of your stars will be on the same layer. So every star I drew while holding down the Shift button is on its same layer. But let's say you decide after the fact that you want to merge all of your layers together. What you can do is hold down the Shift button and then select all the layers in the layer panel at once. So I'm selecting polygon 2 all the way through polygon 10. They're all selected, and I know they're selected because they're blue right now. I held down the Shift button, selected them all. Now I use the shortcut key Command E or Control E if you're on a PC. Write that down. Command E if you're on a Mac, Control E if you're on a PC. And that merges them all together, and now they're all on the same layer. So Command E merges them. And then the next shape layer, the third shape layer rather, that we can use for our project is the custom shape tool, which is down at the very, very bottom. And it looks like a little amoeba. And the custom shape tool gives you access to the custom shape library, which is this little icon up here up at the top of the screen. And the custom shape library has all of these cool shapes that you can play with. And if you're seeing a bunch of shapes, but you're not quite seeing as many as I have, what you can do is open up all of your custom shape libraries at once by clicking on this little gear icon and then clicking on the word all and clicking on the word append. And if you click on the word append, it will open up all of the libraries at once. So I'm going to select this little moon shape here, and then I can draw a little moon up here. Right, now I've used at least 3 shape layers, but there are plenty of other shape layers that you can use. You can, there's also the rounded rectangle tool, which is kind of fun. And what we can do with the rounded rectangle tool is I'll put a little, like maybe I'll do like a dark bluish purple stroke, and I'll make my fill nothing. So to make your fill nothing, you can click on this no color option, which is gray with a red line through it. And I'll put maybe a 10-point stroke on it. I'll use like a dashed line, and then watch. Then I have this kind of like dashed line there. So that's a 4th shape layer that I've added to this. So now we're ready to save this. And so to save it, we're always going to save the native file format, which is the Photoshop document. So to save the Photoshop document, we just go File, Save As. And we're going to name this using the standard naming convention that the school uses, which is DES104week1_assignment _your name. And I would recommend that you guys be organized and make a folder for all of your assignments. Obviously, you're not going to make a folder in your downloads folder because downloads is where you usually delete stuff after you downloaded it. So we're going to make a folder on our desktop. And I'm going to click the new folder icon at the bottom of the screen. And I'll call this DES104 schoolwork. And if you guys want to be organized, you should have a folder for each of your classes on your desktop. And then the format that we're saving is a Photoshop format. It has all of our layers. And then we're going to hit save. And so that's just one of the files that we're going to be submitting. The other file that we're going to be submitting is a JPEG. So we're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web, File, Export, Save for Web. JPEG high. And then you're going to hit save. And then you're going to browse to the DES104 schoolwork folder. And then hit save. And those are the two files that you're going to be submitting this week. Make sense?
Yeah, now it does. It came back.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So what I want to do, I'm going to go over your assessment, which is your coloring page, in just a moment. But first, I want to address some things that sometimes come up in a first Photoshop or a design class. And so I made a little cartoon that goes over some common issues that sometimes come up among students. And there is a moral or message to this cartoon. So see if you can identify what the moral or message is.
Hello. I noticed that the file you submitted for your Photoshop homework was a 500 megabit PSD document. Due to the fact that it will take me about 3 hours to download a file that big and I have 120 other students to grade, would you mind submitting a small JPEG file under 500 kilobits in addition to your PSD document?
How do I make a JPEG file?
I have explained how to do this in both the lectures and in the video I made entitled Step-by-Step Instructions on How to Do Your Photoshop Homework. You can also find out how to make a JPEG in the textbook. Have you watched my lectures?
No. I don't have time to watch the lectures. I work a full-time job.
You should definitely try to watch the lectures, because there are a lot of important instructions on how to do your class assignments. At the very least, do try to watch the video I made called Step-by-Step Instructions on How to Do Your Photoshop Homework.
Where is that video?
It's in the announcement section of the classroom in bright red bold letters at the top of the screen.
I don't think I have time to watch that video. Can you just tell me how to save a JPEG?
I'm starting to worry that maybe you didn't do your Photoshop homework correctly if you don't even know how to save a JPEG. You should watch the video instructions and make sure you did everything correctly.
I don't have time to watch these videos. Just tell me how to do the Photoshop homework.
Okay. First open Photoshop. Then, go to File, New, and make a document that is 8 by 10 and 72 dpi in RGB mode.
Whoa. This is too hard. There is too much to remember. How am I going to possibly learn this all?
I think it would be much easier if you just watch the video I made, and take notes on it, and then pause, rewind and rewatch the parts that are confusing to you.
RGB. DPI. This is so confusing. I'm never going to remember this all. Photoshop is too hard.
Thousands of people learn Photoshop every day. It's not hard at all, and actually pretty fun.
There's too much to remember. There's all these tools and layers. I'm so confused. I couldn't learn this online. I'm taking Illustrator at the same time. This is too hard.
I've taught hundreds of students Photoshop online. They all had to learn Illustrator at the same time. Most of them passed both classes and most of those got A's. I know you can as well.
I have a job and a family. I need to spend time with my family.
Most students taking online classes have jobs and families. They have succeeded and you can too.
School is taking too much time away from my family. My family comes first.
Lots of students at this school work jobs and have families.
My kid has the flu. I need to take care of him.
If you were sick, would you expect your kid to ignore his or her schoolwork to take care of you? If you work hard in this class and get good grades, you'll be able to get a good job and send your kid to college one day. Don't you want your kid to see how important school is, and how making excuses only ends up costing more money and time in the long run?
I'm not making excuses. Photoshop is too hard. I'm too old to learn new things. I'm never going to get this.
Most my students are older. Sure, the first week of class is always a little difficult, but everyone usually catches on as long as they do the reading, watch the lectures, videos, and email me if they have questions.
Maybe I should take this class on campus instead of online.
In many ways, learning online is easier, because you can rewatch the lectures as many times as you want. You have immediate access to a tutor several times a week, and you can call or email me anytime if you need help.
This is too hard. I keep making mistakes. Maybe I should switch to another school.
I know it seems difficult. But if you quit now, you won't get to find out how fun Photoshop can be and how. I do hope you will watch the lectures and videos and then visit tutoring or call me if you need help. This is only the first week. Don't quit now.
Okay, so what do you think the message of that little cartoon is?
Don't quit. Old people learn new tricks every day.
Exactly. Don't make excuses either. We have plenty of resources available to help you. And in fact, I have multi-sessions available tomorrow and on Wednesday. And those multi-sessions are sessions where you can come in and get one-on-one help with your assignments. And so they are, if we go into the classroom and then click on the live session link. Here are the multi-session times on Tuesday and Wednesday, where you can come in and get one-on-one help with your assignments, this very same classroom. And then we also have, in addition to getting help from the multi-sessions, you have the Student Success Center, which is available right here on the main page of your classroom. And the Student Success Center is open 6 days a week. And it's where you can click and enter the Student Success Center right there. And there are tutors available 6 days a week to help you with your assignments. So it's really, really easy, whether you're getting help from me, whether you're getting help from from the Student Success Center, whether you're emailing me for help, whether you're going to the multi-sessions, you just have a number of places that you can go to get one-on-one help with your assignments. So I just want to show you a few other things that you are more than welcome to experiment with this assignment. We have, in all of our layers, we have these things called layer styles. So right now, I have this layer here that says Polygon 10. That is all of my stars. If you double click on the blank area of your layer, so not on the layer name, not on the layer icon, but on the blank area next to the layer name, the layer style window will pop up. And the layer style window has all these different settings. So for instance, let's say you want to put a glow around those stars. You can click on outer glow, And then you can increase the size of the glow, you can increase the opacity of the glow, and you can even change the color. So right now, let's say I'll make the color of the glow kind of like a greenish color there. You can also do all sorts of fun things like in the blending options. So I'll go up here to blending options and I'll reduce the fill. And so now my stars are kind of invisible with a glow around them, and I think that kind of looks interesting and kind of cool. I can also put like a little inner glow inside them, which might be nice, and kind of increase the size of the inner glow like so. And that kind of looks interesting as well. So play around with layer styles if you want. And then in week 2, you guys are going to be learning about adjustment layers and all sorts of things. But if you click on the little circle that's light on one side, dark on the other, and then click on hue saturation. The hue saturation adjustment layer will allow you to change the color of your whole document. So you can just click on this little slider, click and drag around, and you can see, now you can see what your document would look like if you were to change the color completely. And we're going to learn more about hue saturation in week 2 and week 4. But this is something you can definitely play with if you are so inclined. And you can also click the colorize button, which will show you what your whole design will look like if you made it monochromatic, which is kind of interesting as well. Your assessment this week is going to be really, really fun. Let's venture over here to our week 1, and then we're going to click on our assessment. Like I said, it's a coloring page. Jess asks, is creativity encouraged in the course? Yes, absolutely. You can be as creative as you want with these assignments, but please do make sure that you hit all of the requirements in the rubric. So like I've said, there's been some students who didn't really see, I guess, in the past that 3 shape layers are required. So they just turn in a wallpaper background that was made using like the brush tool. And I had to, take off 65 or 85 points because the 3 shape layers weren't used. So, meet the requirements, but then feel free to go above and beyond if you want. So what we're going to be doing is coloring, just like you did in kindergarten. And the cool thing about coloring in Photoshop, though, that's different than coloring in kindergarten, is it's a lot easier. Photoshop makes it easy so that you don't accidentally color over the lines. And Photoshop makes it so that you can color nice and cleanly and keep the colors specified to certain areas and without bleeding into other areas. And Photoshop also makes it like 1,000 times faster to color. You can color something all in about 5 minutes versus, say, an hour that it would take to color if you were to color by hand. So, but you need to make sure that you use the tools correctly. And so I am going to be demonstrating how to use these selection tools, which make it really easy for you to stick your colors into specific parts of your coloring page, and also the multiply tool, which will enable you to keep your lines separate from your colors, and so that you don't accidentally color over your lines. So what you're going to do first is click on this assessment image, and it's going to automatically open in preview, but you can just X out of there. Then go back to Photoshop. And then, when we were making our wallpaper, we went to File, New, remember? But for the coloring page, it's going to be a little bit different. So write this down in your notes. For the coloring page, you're going to go to File, Open. So you're going to go to File, open. Write that down in your notes. File open. And then you're going to go to your downloads folder, and then you're going to click on the assessment image, and then you're going to click open.
I actually had a quick question.
Yep, what's up?
So on Windows PC and everything, you're able to, like, say if you have the Paint or any other type of image manipulation tool open, or Paint or Photoshop, you're able to drag and drop from like your desktop or a folder or anything. Are you able to do that as well?
Well, you're able to drag and drop into an already open document, but for like something like this, where instead of you're not dragging the image into a document, you're just opening it, you would go File Open. So like if I wanted to bring, say, a photo into this document, yeah, I could just open up two windows side by side and then just click and drag one image into this.
Okay, so say if you like opened a like a brand new blank layer or anything, like brand spanking new, you could just drag and drop it onto that. Would it resize the layer?
Yeah, it will resize the original image to fit inside of your document.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So yeah, we don't want this page to be resized. That's why we're not making a new document first. We are going to File Open. And now we have a number of steps that need to be followed exactly correctly in order to make coloring nice and easy, and in order for you to get full credit on this assignment. So be sure to write down all these steps so that you can refer to them in your notes, okay? Write this down. If you haven't yet got your piece of paper and your pencil or pen, get your paper and your pencil or pen right now, okay? Step 1, double click on your background layer. Double click. And then it's going to say layer 0. You click OK. So what we did there is we unlocked our background layer. We unlocked our background layer. Okay, so step 1 was double clicking on the background layer to unlock it. Step 2 is we're going to make a new layer. And you can either make a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon, which is a square with a little triangle in the side of it, or by hitting Shift Command N or Shift Control N. Step 3 is we're going to drag layer 1 underneath layer 0. Step 3, write this down in your notes, drag layer 1 underneath layer 0.
Quick question. It took me a second to grab my paper and pencil. Could you redo those instructions just really briefly, really quick, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to first open up the Assessment 1 image by going to File, Open, and then clicking on Assessment Image 1, and then clicking Open. And then I'm going to double click on the background layer. Double click. This window is going to pop up. It says layer 0, and you're going to click OK. So double click on the background layer to unlock it. Step 3 is make a new layer, and you can either do that by hitting Shift Command N if you're on a Mac, Shift Control N if you're on a PC, or by clicking the new layer icon, which is a square with a little triangle inside of it. Step 4, you're going to click on layer 1 and drag it underneath layer 0. So now layer 1 is underneath layer 0.
Now, how did you get, when you were interrupted by the other guy, you were on drag layer 1 under layer 0.
Mm-hmm.
That was step 3.
I forget. I'm bad at numbers. I forgot what step it was. Sorry. I probably was just
Your count's off.
Okay, so I would say I'm just going through all the steps in my memory. Step 1 is file open. Step 2 is double click on the background layer to unlock it. Step 3 is make a new layer. See, I'm just going off the top of my head. I'm not.
Okay.
Step 3 is make a new layer. And step 4 is drag layer 1 underneath layer 0.
Okay, I got you.
Cool.
Yeah, because I started at step 1 is double click to unlock layer 0.
Okay.
And step 2 was a new layer. Step 3 was to drag layer 1 underneath layer 0. Yeah.
Okay, as long as you're all here, that's what matters. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is use our paint bucket tool, and you can choose any old color you want with your paint bucket tool. Make sure layer 1 is selected, and you know layer 1 is selected because it's blue. And what you're going to do is click on your document with your paint bucket tool and whatever color you've chosen. And see now in the layer panel, layer 1 is now whatever color you chose. In my case, it's purple. And layer 0 is the black and white line art. Okay, does everyone see that? Layer 1 is purple. Layer 0 is the black and white line art. So what we want to do is be able to see the purple through the white of that page, right? We want to turn this black and white shape into something transparent so we can see our colors through it. And this is where you really need to get this because this is worth 10 points off the rubric. We're going to convert layer 0 to a multiply layer, okay? So I've clicked layer 0. I know layer 0 is clicked and selected because it's blue. I'm going to go up here to the drop-down menu that says normal in our layer panel. So layer 0 is selected and blue. I'm going to go up to the drop-down menu that says normal. And I'm going to click on this drop-down menu here, and I'm going to select multiply. And now the black of my lines is staying black, and whatever colors I put underneath those lines are going to show through. Okay, and this is the most important part of coloring. Does anyone want me to do that again? Okay, so before, I'm just going to do it one more time. So I have layer 1. It's full of color, just like our week 1 assignment, right? But you can't see that color because layer 0 is on top of it, and the white of the layer 0 layer is blocking the color from showing through. So I'm going to go up here to this drop-down menu that says normal. Again, I need to make sure that layer 0 is selected. I know layer 0 is selected because it's blue right now. You click on a layer to select it, right? So I click on layer 0 to select it. It's blue. And now I'm going to go up to the drop-down menu up at the top of the layer panel. Right now that drop-down menu says normal. And I'm going to change it to multiply. And now I can see my colors. Does anyone want me to do that again?
What exactly does this do to the layer? It just makes it to where like layer 0's or layer 1's able to be seen through layer 0?
Yep, this is called a blending mode, and we're going to go into step on blending modes in week 4. But what
Oh.
multiply does is it makes white opaque, or white transparent and black opaque.
Also, is this live session going to be available later on in a recording? Because I actually have to go right now.
Yeah, all of your classes at the school, just like your previous class that you took, they're all recorded.
Awesome sauce. And this is almost like what, at the hour 25 mark?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
No
See you
problem.
guys next week or whenever the next class is.
Monday.
Monday?
Yep.
Awesome sauce.
So next step.
I got a question.
Sure.
At which point did you turn your layer 1? Did you color that? Was it between step 2 and 3?
I don't remember the numbers of the step. I'll just start over.
Well, before you dragged layer 0 down below.
It doesn't matter when you drag it below. You can color it first and then drag it below after. Or you could drag it below after and then color it later. It doesn't matter. So I'll start from the beginning just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So what we're going to do is go to File, Open, and then we're going to click on Assessment Image 1 and Open. And write this down in your notes, guys. We're going to double click on Background to unlock it, and then we're going to click OK. Now, we're going to make a new layer by either hitting Shift Command N or by clicking on the new layer icon, which is available at the top or at the bottom of the layer panel. Then I'm going to click on layer 1 and drag layer 1 underneath layer 0. Make a new layer, click on layer 1, and drag layer 1 underneath layer 0. Now I'm going to click on the paint bucket tool, select whatever color I want, make sure layer 1 is checked, and we know that layer 1 is selected because it's blue. And now I'm going to click on my canvas, and now you can see layer 1 is purple and layer 0 is still black and white. Everyone with me so far? Now I want to be able to see the color through layer 0. So I'm going to change the blending mode for layer 0 from normal to multiply. And in order to change the blending mode for layer 0 from normal to multiply, I need to select layer 0. And I know layer 0 is selected because it's blue. And then I go up to the drop-down menu that says normal. And I'm going to click on multiply and select multiply from this drop-down menu. And that makes the white of the page become transparent. And so I can see the colors underneath. So this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be putting my colors underneath my lines. Now the final step before we begin coloring is to lock layer 0 so that we don't accidentally color on it. So to lock layer 0, we click on layer 0, and we know layer 0 is selected because it's blue. And we're going to click on the little lock icon. And now layer 0 is locked. Layer 1 is purple. And now I can make a new layer on top of layer 1. And this new layer is where all of my coloring is going to go. Okay, so we are now in the final stretch of coloring this project. Does anyone want me to go over anything, any part of this that was confusing to you?
No, even the last time I had to take this course, that was the confusing part.
Okay. And something that you all may want to do is take a screenshot of my workspace right now. And you can take a screenshot by hitting Shift-Command-4. And that way, if you need to check and make sure your layers are in the right order, you can look at your screenshot and go, okay, that's the order that Carly has on hers, so I'm doing it right. Okay, so my colors are going to go on layer 2, but I need to make selections in order to make nice, clean colors. And I make all my selections on layer 0, okay? And the tool I'm going to use to make my selections is the Magic Wand tool. Now, in our pre-recorded lecture, I go over all the different ways to make selections. There's tons of different tools to make selections. But for this particular assignment, the Magic Wand tool is really the best tool because it's so easy to use. Now, whenever you're making selections, you have a number of options available at the top of the screen. You have either just the Create a New Selection icon, the Add to Selection icon, and the Subtract from Selection icon. So when we're making a new selection for the first time, just using the Create a New Selection is a good way to go. I'm hitting Command + to zoom in. So if you guys don't have that written down in your notes, write that down. Command + lets you zoom into a project. Command - lets you zoom out. And then 2 fingers lightly dusting across your trackpad is the way that we can navigate around our canvas. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select these, I guess you could see all of these like little leaf shapes here. So I'm going to make a little selection by clicking on the blank area of this little leaf here. And I want to select all of them. So something I want to do is hold down the Shift button. Hold down the Shift button while selecting all of these. See, now I have them all selected. I can color them all the same color at the same time, right? And maybe I'll select these like little leaves, and then I'll also select these, and maybe this, and maybe these hearts. So I'm holding down the Shift button while selecting all of these. Now, I have the selection made on the line layer, but the coloring is going to go on layer 2. Jess asked me to repeat the commands. It's Shift. Shift to add to your selection, and then Command + to zoom in, Command + to zoom in, Command - to zoom out. And the plus and the minuses are located right next to the 0 key on your keyboard. Command +, Command - You can also dust 2 fingers across your trackpad to navigate around your canvas. And you can also do just like on your smartphone, you can make that motion on your trackpad to zoom in and zoom out. Okay, now I'm ready to color this. So I'm going to choose my paint bucket tool. I'm going to choose a nice color. From my color picker. And now up at the top of the screen, I have some options up here with my paint bucket tool. And one is contiguous. I want to make sure contiguous is not checked. And so now I'm able to select and color all of those areas at once. Now I'm going to color more of this picture. So I no longer need the selection that I've made. So write this down, new command key, Command D to deselect, Command D to deselect, Command D as in delete, deselect. I'm gonna go back to layer 0. I'm gonna click on layer 0, go back to layer 0. I'm gonna go back to my magic wand tool. You can also just hit W on your keyboard to bring up the magic wand tool. And I'm going to click on this little area here. Click. And now I want to select multiple areas at once. So I'm going to hold down the Shift button. Shift, click, Shift, click, Shift, click. And maybe also Shift, click, Shift, click, Shift, click. Shift, click. No, Jess, not Shift Zoom. To zoom in and out, Command plus sign and Command minus sign. Command, not Shift. Now I've selected all of those little areas. And I'm going to click on layer 2. And I'm going to select a new color. And then I'm going to get my paint bucket tool. Yep. So Michael, I'm doing all of my selections on layer 0, and I'm doing my coloring on layer 2. And then with my paint bucket tool, I paint in those colors. Then when I'm done, I no longer need the selection anymore. So I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. I'm going to go back to layer 0, get my magic wand tool, click on the area I want to color, hold down the Shift button to select multiple areas. Let's see. And let's say I made those selections and I don't want them anymore. I can Option click, hold down the Option button, and deselect. So now I'm going to go to my color picker, and I'm going to select a nice color, and then I'll get my, let's do a little bit more of a saturated orange. And then I will get my paint bucket tool out. I will go to layer 2, and I will click. Ta-da! Just like that. And then Command D. So question, do you have to color the whole document? Yes. You have to color the whole thing. It will go a lot quicker than I'm doing it because I have to explain it. Now that you guys know how to do it, you can just, go around clicking and with your magic wand tool, holding down the Shift button, selecting so many different areas, and then, coloring in that way. Now you're also welcome to try out some of the other selection techniques that I teach in my pre-recorded lecture. So for instance, you have the elliptical marquee tool, and the elliptical marquee tool allows you to make circles like so. So if you want to colorize certain areas in like little polka dots like this, you can do that. And then, you know, I'll get my little paint bucket tool out so we can do some fun things like that. And then Command D. And then I can, you know, you can also try out and see what your, you know, rectangle marquee tool does for you. See if you can get any kind of interesting selections that way as well. So you're welcome to be creative with this. For this assignment, you are going to be turning in a JPEG, and you're going to be keeping your Photoshop document so that if I'm not sure that you use the multiply tool, you can then send it to me and I can check, okay? But you're going to be turning in the JPEG. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we are going to be, of course, saving and backing up our project as a Photoshop document, DES104week1 assessment _ your name. So your goal, Michael was asking, can we have circles and rectangles? Yes, you absolutely can. But your goal is to make a appealing project. So if you don't use the magic wand tool at all, and you just end up coloring it with circles and rectangles, you know, you're not going to get a good grade if you like go in and you colorize each individual shape. And it's going to look better on your portfolio too, if you color it in the right way. But do, you know, feel free to show your other selection techniques that I cover in the week 1 pre-recorded lecture. So the Photoshop document is being saved to our schoolwork folder. And then I'm going to save the JPEG for your submission. And so that's going to be File, Export, Save for Web, File, Export, Save for Web. Save. And that JPEG is what you're going to be turning in. And then what we're going to do is, let's actually just talk about a few things that come up that cause students to not get the best grade on their Photoshop homework. And this happens from time to time. And so I made another little cartoon, and there's 4 main reasons discussed in this cartoon why someone might earn a less than stellar grade on their assignment. See if you can identify what those 4 main reasons are.
Why did I get such a low grade on my Photoshop homework?
Did you see the feedback I wrote for you in the grad book?
There was no feedback.
Yes, there was. If you click on the score you received, a window will open up showing you the feedback I wrote on your assignment. Let me explain the 3 things you did incorrectly on this assignment. 1. The image you used in your design was copyright protected and illegal to use.
No, it wasn't. I found it for free while searching on Google.
Yes, that's the problem. In my lectures and in the classroom I have stated repeatedly that Google is not a stock photography company. The images you find on Google are copyright protected. They belong to the artists and photographers who made them, and you don't have permission to use them.
So how am I going to get permission to use that image? Contact the photographer. That's a lot of work.
You can do that. But I would suggest instead of using copyright-protected images found on Google, you visit a free stock exchange website and use free stock photos for your class assignments.
Which websites are stock photo websites?
Again, I've provided this information numerous times in the lectures and in the classroom. But okay, one stock photography website, it Stock Exchange. You can just Google stock exchange and then it's the first website that comes up that's not related to the stock market. The URL is isxc.hu.
How do I download images from Stock Exchange?
You have to register for a free account. And then you click on the thumbnail image and the photo will open in a large window. Next, click and drag the large photo to your desktop.
Wait a minute. This cute image of a bunny has a watermark over it. How do I get that watermark off the image?
Not all the stock photos on Stock Exchange are free. You have to pay for some.
But I don't want to pay.
I know. That's why you should only use the free images. Those are the ones that don't have watermarks on them.
Can't I just use the clone stamp tool to get rid of the watermark?
No. Trying to use an image that you didn't pay for is stealing and it will earn you a poor grade.
So what else did I do wrong on my assignment?
Your design has numerous spelling, grammatical, punctuation and capitalization errors.
I thought this was a Photoshop class, not an English class.
It is, but if you expect to get work as a professional designer, you need to make sure that your designs have no mistakes in them whatsoever. If you design for a client and give them a product with a bunch of typos on it, you will never get work from that client ever again.
But I want to work for a big design firm. At big companies, they have people who check for mistakes.
Yes, and if the people who check for mistakes see you making mistakes like this, you will be fired.
What was the last thing I did wrong?
One of the images in your design is very blurry and pixelated. It looks like it was originally a small image that you sized to make bigger and it became pixelated in the process.
Yes, I needed a picture of a house. The only picture I could find was small, so it had to be resized.
Are you telling me that you couldn't find a photo of a house that was larger than 2000 pixels?
That's right. The only pictures of houses that I could find were small.
In the future, if you ever can't find an image that is high resolution and you can't photograph your own image, then you need to change your concept. Pixelated images are unacceptable. You need to make sure that your design looks clean and professional so that you can use it in your professional portfolio.
Can't I redo my assignment?
Normally I don't let students redo their assignment. But if you can swap out those images for free stock photos and fix your typos in the next 60 minutes, I will accept it.
60 minutes? How can I erase and clone stamp out all my typos and photos in 60 minutes?
Are you telling me that your photos and texts are all merged together and you didn't save your separate layers?
Merged? No. Of course not. I don't know how to merge. I made my design all on the background layer.
From the very beginning of class, I have stressed the importance of keeping each of your elements on separate layers. You need to use non-destructive editing techniques so that you have the most flexibility in your revisions.
I don't have time to make new layers. I was in a hurry.
Then it looks like you won't have time to resubmit your assignment.
Alrighty, so what were the 4 things that student did incorrectly on his assignment? So that student used copyright protected imagery in his design, right? Number 1.
And then he put everything on one layer.
Put everything on the background layer. What else did he do? He used small pictures and he stretched them to make them bigger, resulting in them being blurry and pixelated. And he had spelling and grammar mistakes on his design. And spelling and grammar is a really, really important part of being a graphic designer, because if you have spelling and grammar mistakes on a project that you send to a client and that client spends like $10,000 getting it printed,
No, boy.
they find out that you had a spelling error, you are liable for that money. So that means you have to pay that $10,000 back. And so it can be really expensive for you if you have spelling and grammar mistakes. Also, no one will hire you if you have portfolio pieces that have spelling or grammar mistakes, or if your resume or cover letter has spelling or grammar mistakes. Also, if you make a big mistake for a client that ends up, costing a lot of money, that will get around the industry. People will find out about you and not hire you. So I would say spelling and grammar, just attention to detail and caring and making sure that your work is as clean and professional as can be is a vital, important part of working as a professional graphic designer. So I just want to also remind you all to please, let me go back to this. Please get your Photoshop installed by Wednesday. This is really, really important. We need to make sure that your Photoshop is installed by Wednesday, and you need to be contacting Sean right away today if you're having any trouble at all installing Photoshop or getting the information that you need to install Photoshop or taking your pre-learning assessment or anything at all, because we want to make sure that you have enough time to do your week 1 assignments. And if you tell us on like Thursday that you didn't get Photoshop installed, we're going to be like, why are you telling us now? Why didn't you get this installed earlier? Okay, so it's really, really important. Tamik has a question. Is it normal to have 3 classes on the 4th module? Tamik, is one of those classes a 099 class? Like English 099 or Math 099? Okay, so that is a refresher class, and it's not required. It's simply to help you prepare for your math classes. So if you do not want to take that class, you can send an email to the registrar at online.registrar@independence.edu and ask to be removed from that class. Okay, Jess hasn't received the laptop yet. So Jess, what you will want to do is contact your FPA right away, letting them know that you haven't received it yet. You should have received a FedEx tracking number. Did you get the tracking number? Okay, yep, look at the tracking number up on FedEx, and that will tell you when you should be receiving your laptop. Okay, Tamara says, perfect. So you can start the Photoshop installation tomorrow then. Oh, Tamik, send me an email with your full name. Tamik, you will send me your email, list the classes, and I will also forward that to the online registrar to get you removed from that if you want. Okay, I just want to wrap up with a few tips for your success, for your best success in the class. And these are just some tips on how to back up your work and work professionally in Photoshop and get your assignments turned in and take notes and all those important things. I want to talk about how to be an effective student and also how to be successful as a graphic designer. Now, we're in my office right now. This is where I do all of my class sessions with you guys. And this is the computer that I mostly use. In fact, this is a Wacom Cintiq, if you're wondering, and it's really handy because I'm able to draw on the screen, if I can find my little pen here, and I can do really easy photo retouching and everything. So if you're interested in upgrading, this is what I use, but by all means you don't have to use a Wacom Cintiq. I got my Wacom Intuos 3 off eBay, which was $35, I believe. And I still use my Wacom Intuos 3 all the time. And for my on-campus classes, I use it. And I do a lot of drawing work with it when I want to kind of draw in bed and lay on the floor and sketch, and I don't want to necessarily be sitting at my desk. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a good workspace. But just if you're interested, that's what I use. Now, but that's just a side thing. I want to talk about something really important, which is a work area that you can learn in and a work area that you can create in. And when you're doing these class sessions and when you're watching me talk, it's a good idea to be in a distraction-free environment. So find a room in your house where you can close the door and lock it and put a sign on that says, "Do not disturb." Also, try to work in an area that doesn't have a television set or a second computer, where you can really focus on the material that's being taught. If you have the TV running while your class session is going on at the same time, that takes up half of your brain power, and you want 100% of your brain power to be focused on learning. Same for when it comes to creating and working on your assignments. Set aside 2 hours every day where you're just going to be working on your homework. Put a sign on the door that says, "Do not disturb me. I am working on my homework." Lock that door, and when that door is locked, no one is allowed to bother you, okay? Turn your cell phone off. You know, even consider putting a voicemail message that says, "Do not call during this time because I'm working on my schoolwork." Now, when the class session is going on, it's a good idea to keep a piece of paper right by your computer where you can take notes. In fact, I would say this is required. I personally still watch a lot of graphic design tutorials and videos on how to use Illustrator and how to use Photoshop, doing different techniques, and it's impossible to sit back and watch those videos without taking notes because there's so many steps involved that you won't remember them all. So keep that piece of paper, keep that pencil or that pen, and write down all the steps as I go through them. Also write down any important things that I say, such as back up your work in 2 locations, write that down, or make sure that you submit this design as a JPEG and not a native file format. Write that down. That's all important stuff. So studies have shown that when you actually physically write down your notes, the information stays in your brain longer than if you type up notes, and certainly the information doesn't stay in your brain if you don't take notes at all. Taking notes is an important part of your mind processing information. Now, final thing about your work area and making it effective for learning and creating, this thing, an external hard drive. An external hard drive is a place where you can copy your file and store it outside of your computer. So if anything were to happen to your computer, if your computer crashes and stops working, which has happened to me before, went to turn on my computer one morning and it just didn't turn on. But if you have that work saved on an external hard drive, you can open it up on another computer. Another good idea is to have Google Drive. And even if you're kind of paranoid, which I am about your work, especially work that you're doing for clients because you're like liable for the safety of that file, consider having an off-site location. Of course, Google Drive is great, but I have a external hard drive, just like this one here, in a safe deposit box at the bank. And every couple months I go and I download all of my files to that hard drive at the bank in a safe deposit box. So if my house were to ever burn down, I have my work stored in a very, very safe location. Okay, so workspace. Make sure it's distraction-free, no TVs, no one knocking on your door, cell phone is turned off. Make sure you're 100% focused on our class sessions. Make sure you're taking notes. Make sure you're backing up your work. And make sure you're in the mindset and you're ready to create some awesome stuff. All right, you guys. So I'll open up the rest of the class to questions if you guys have any. And if not, you are free to go.